So this is a very fancy title. I just want to share with you what I wanted to contribute, because I'm learning so much from you all, is a point of view that Uber's really been leaning into about technology through the lens of customer care or customer support, whatever you might call it in your organization. And before I dive into that, I think I need to give you a little bit of history about Uber. Someone's here from Spirit Airlines or JetBlue. When you guys order airplanes, you order them like 5 years in advance-ish? 3 to 5 years in advance, and I'm guessing Royal Caribbean orders their ships 5 or 10 years in advance. This is a company that has an entire lifespan of 8 years. So Royal Caribbean might be launching a cruise ship shortly that they ordered before Uber even existed. So in some respects, I'm speaking to you with not a lot of history, but I think the experience that we've had at Uber in and of itself is interesting. Back in 2013, I would never be here talking to you because we didn't have a customer care function. We had no customer experience organization. We operated in 74 cities with 74 little startups. So you had a city team here in Miami or in Amsterdam or whatever it might be, and they did everything. They did the local marketing, they did the operations, and they did support. And as the company really started growing, I think we all would recognize centralizing support, centralizing customer care, getting some consistency there would be a really good idea. And so back at the end of 2013, we started doing that. And we didn't know what we were doing because we were Uber. So we were a bunch of 25-year-olds that were like making it up as we were going along. And we did a little bit of BPO here, and let's try some CSRs work from home, let's try a COE. And so they began to really experiment and begin to build an organization. And timing being everything, Uber really, really started growing right about the time they created this centralized function. And you can get a sense from these numbers up here how large our customer care organization has grown over the last 4 years. Has anyone here gone through a year where the top line growth of your company, for us it would be trips, maybe for you it would be revenue, I don't know, where it's 20% or more? Did anyone have a year like that? Raise your hands high, like that's a huge, keep your hands up if you did it in a quarter. Did you do it in a month? Oh, we almost had TripAdvisor. We did it every month for 43 months in a row. Think about the compounding effect of that. We couldn't forecast to save our lives. We just literally couldn't see what was happening. It was growing so fast. At the end of the 43 months, we were 5,000 times the size as when we started. And I will tell you, through a customer experience perspective, what happens when you grow that quickly. You break everything. Every process you have, every system you use, every people approach that you have, none of it works anymore. And so we really had the need, because necessity is the mother of invention, they say, of taking a step back and simply saying, okay, we are this big, we have to make it work at this scale. What kind of thing are we intentionally going to be building? What is the customer experience and customer care environment that we want to be creating now that we recognize we're operating at this massive of a scale? And I want to share with you, there were 2 really big important inputs for us into defining that vision of what we wanted that customer experience, that customer care to be. I don't think these are specific to Uber, so maybe there's a nugget in here for you. The first is this really interesting dichotomy between a recognition that product and price are not what's going to differentiate in the future, especially in industries like ours, in transportation, where what actually is the difference, please don't answer this out loud, between Lyft and Uber? What is fundamentally the difference between Grubhub and Uber Eats, right? Meal delivery services. It's going to be in the experience. And so we know, as we are going to be in more and more competitive environments, we have to really think about how do we have this idea of customer care, customer experience, be a huge part of what we win on. And the dichotomy of that is that customer care to our consumers, I think all of our consumers, doesn't mean human interaction necessarily going forward. Our customers, and I'd argue yours too, are telling us that they're okay with the idea that the majority of that interaction is more tech-based than people-based. And so that creates an interesting dynamic as we start to think about what the future might look like. So this was one huge input for us. The second big input was this, and maybe you've already figured this out. We have learned the hard way that we win at the 95th percentile. That we don't win by designing really great experiences that the majority of the time turn out this way and they sort of have some tails at the end, right? Because let's take an example of the ETA of that car arriving. That's a very core part of our ride-sharing business. If the ETA is 3 minutes and we hit that 80% of the time, that's great. But what about the other people that are on that tail out there? They're expecting an ETA of 3 minutes. What if it's 6 minutes, 9 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes? So we recognized we needed to make sure that we were designing experiences with what we intended to do and really tight bands around it. And there's no way to do that without being able to lean really heavily on tech, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. So those two, amongst a bunch of other inputs, led us to this goal. I'm not going to read it to you. It has all the right buzzwords in it. Bullshit bingo, we would win with this one. It fundamentally is about 5 things. And I can't cover all 5, we don't have enough time. But as we think about the customer experience, as we think about customer care, I suspect these are some of the things that you also are thinking about. And today I thought I would talk about those at the bottom. I would talk a bit about our platform and technology and share with you where Uber's choosing to make bets and a little bit about what those use cases are looking like. Talk about how it connects to self-service. It's a topic we've spent a lot of time on, made a bunch of mistakes on. I want to fess up to you guys what those were so you can learn from them. And then talk just a little bit about the impact that it has on our people. Because even though technology is a huge part for us of the experience, the people part is not to be forgotten. It is also a big part in its own way. Okay, so the first thing I really wanted to share with you is that we at Uber have chosen to make a pretty big bet on machine learning algorithms. And I am not a data scientist, so I will not attempt to explain all the details of it. I'll tell you what you can Google if you want to see about some of our engineering blogs and whatnot. But what we are betting on here is that we can use machines to help us understand where there are opportunities to create really phenomenal, exceptional experiences. And so what we have done, and if you Google Uber and Michelangelo, you'll get a whole white paper about this platform thingy. I view it like a library, like a bookcase that we've built. And it's got all the components so that as we build more and more of these algorithms, they are like the books we put on the shelf and we maintain the library. So the platform that we built does all the stuff that you see on the right-hand side. I am not proposing that you should go and build it. You can go and work with companies that do this for you. I think the example actually from the Cincinnati airport is a great example of using other companies. We, Uber, just have too big of an ego to think we can't build it better ourselves. So that's how we did it. I want to show you 3 ways that we're using it through the lens of customer care. So the first way is about identifying and avoiding poor customer experiences. So we have 4 different machine learning algorithms that we use. I'll just highlight a couple of them. The whole point of these are to identify when an experience is probably going to go pretty south and to pull it out of our ecosystem before it turns into a disaster. So one of our machine learning algorithms uses natural language processing. It's pretty simple. It's the idea that because we do 4 billion trips a year and we do a boatload of support against that, we have lots of data points about what you are telling us when you might write in about a cancellation fee and wanting that refunded. And we use this machine learning algorithm to understand when you are writing into us with a tone or with a set of language choices that is disproportionately upset to what the average person is telling us when they write in. Because that's a chance for us to lift that out and say, that person is really upset. And it may just be about the cancellation fee, but it may be more. This is a chance for us to invest some in that relationship to really do right by that person, because for whatever reason, this thing is the straw that's breaking the camel's back for them. So that's one way that we do it. Another one's called ping pongs. This is kind of like the game of hot potato. So we have all of our staff specialized in our support organizations. The person that helps on fraud cases is not the person that helps on driver payments. And occasionally a request for support will come in and the person will say, oh, it shouldn't have been routed to our team. It really belongs to that team over there with their expertise. And then that team says, oh, no, it's not me. You get this game of hot potato going. Nobody's actually talked to the customer yet. It may only been an hour of this ping-ponging back and forth. But that is a way that our agents are telling us This is a weird support. This is not classic. There's something in here that's a bit different. Rather than waiting for some poor soul, God bless him, who's going to try, but most likely fail in doing this support interaction, let's pull it out and put it with a specialized team that's more empowered, has more expertise. So there's a whole bunch of these sort of things where we're just trying to use that predictive modeling to identify where we should put some TLC in the experience. So that's one way we do it. The impact that that's had on us is a huge improvement, huge reduction in poor support experiences. And I think we all know poor support experiences play out in our customers choosing if they want to, in our case, ride with us again or drive with us again. Before we started this, don't laugh, we were new, we didn't know what we were doing. 21% of the time when folks gave us feedback about our customer support experience, they were giving it 1 or 2 out of 5 stars. That's really bad. There's no other way to say that, really bad. And that was why we had to do lots of this investment. It's down to 3.4%. And not only is that happening, which is good, more solid experiences, the number of times that these machine learning algorithms are plucking those support moments out has dramatically reduced, because as we are plucking them out and fixing them, our staff is figuring out what caused the problem to start with so we can fix it. It creates that self-healing, constant improvement system. So for me, this is one of my favorite use cases because it's about enabling our staff to spend their time in the really valuable places. The second use case is what I call needle in a haystack. So there are 10,000 dots on that screen you're looking at, and there's one red dot in there, and I dare you to find it. It's impossible, it's right there. The reason I share that with you is this is part of customer care at Uber. Very, very rarely something goes very, very bad. A very serious car accident, somebody feeling that they've been kidnapped. We've had a moment where somebody is concerned about sexual assault of a spouse of theirs that's in a vehicle. There's a drunk driver on the road, these sort of things. You are more likely to get struck by lightning than having one of those things happen to you. So please don't feel like you can't use ride sharing. But when that happens, that is a huge moment in that person's life and a huge moment for our brand to handle those with the right sensitivity and sense of urgency. And what we needed to figure out was, how do we find those? How do we find that needle in a haystack? Today, if you need support at Uber, you go into the app, you go to the help section, you navigate around. There's tons and tons of nodes. There's more than 1,000 of them. That's bad, we need to fix that, we know. But today, you go in there and pick something that feels right to you. My driver was unprofessional, the famous I have an other problem. And so we can't count on you knowing which node to pick to tell us there's been an urgent crisis. So we built a machine learning algorithm called Arnold. Again, if you Google Uber and Arnold, you can learn more about it. That we've put at the front. It's at the entry door of every bit of customer support that we do. And it reads everything that you share with us before you even enter our ecosystem of support. And if you've got the right keywords and phrases and things of that nature, we lift it out. We don't even let you into the front door. We put it within 2 minutes with a team that's reading it to see if our machine learning algorithm really got it right. And then within 30 minutes, we're placing a phone call to you. That makes us feel very, very good about our brand and helps our customers feel that we are really looking out for them. We wouldn't be able to do it at this type of speed without having a machine learning algorithm to find those for us. And then the third case I want to talk about is more about how we are using machine learning algorithms to aid our agents, our staff in their work. Many of you probably experienced the same thing that we did. We woke up one day and sort of had one of those like, holy crap moments. There were more than 30 tools that our folks needed to use to be able to do all of their work. And the problem with that, as you all know, is there's no way to work on efficiencies if it's all spread all over the place. So we bit the bullet, and it was painful, and we built one system where all of it is housed. That was a really critical step for us to be able to do what we now have, which is another machine learning algorithm called COTA, C-O-T-A. You can Google that one as well. And what it does, you can sort of see where that green yes, no is it predicts what the agent probably needs to do to solve that issue. And we ask them, do you want to do this or not? And what we are finding is that it does not reduce the quality of the support interaction, but it increases our agents' efficiency between 9.5% and 10%. And that's huge. At our scale, 9.5%, 10% efficiency gain on anything is really huge for us. And so it's helping us understand where we can start to automate some of the processing so that our agents, our staff, can spend more of their time doing the judgment, the issue identification, the root cause understanding, and then telling the machine, yep, I want you to solve it this way. So this is very, for us, very exciting. And I think where the future is going to go, we're working on it now but don't have it out of the learning environment yet, is to really move almost out of the UI entirely and really have, in essence, a machine assistant for our staff to be able to guide them through that decision-making process about how do I feel best solving this problem, and then using, in essence, bots to execute the process of whatever the agent feels like is the best solution. So for us, that's a very key part of the future of machine learning algorithms. As you can imagine, the more that we are diving into how we use machine learning algorithms and AI to identify the core issues, it lets us get smarter and smarter about how to use self-service. And what we discovered, and I'm sure you all already figured this out, but we learned the hard way, is that just because we build self-service functionality, it is not true, build it and they will come. We have to focus extensively on that intent, this idea of discovery. How do we understand the intent of the customer and make it as painless and frictionless as possible for them to get to the easier part, which is simply the execution of resolving their problem. And so we have a long way to go there. This is what we used to do not that long ago. It was really very simple. You would go into the help section, any major area, we would list what we thought were interesting self-help stuff. Very, very old school. We're now at a place where I think we've caught up, probably to many of you, where it's not about navigating, where it's about searching. And the search, of course, gets better and better as we see more and more about where you choose to go once you start searching. But what we're really, really excited about, and it's almost ready to try to put into the wild, is to leave this whole idea of that interface of us and them, and instead turn it much more into the sense of a conversation. So in this example, somebody, it's a driver, maybe is sort of telling us, hey, I think I was underpaid. We can use all of the data that we have available, plus what you've just told us as a driver, to actually understand where you're coming from, what your problem is, do that research, and then boom, we fixed it. It's all in the self-service. It just feels like a conversation. And where we're really going to get to, and this is the part I'm quite excited about, is taking advantage of those moments to look for proactive opportunities to improve that relationship. So in this example where somebody's said to us, hey, you've got the wrong amount, not only do we fix it for them, we use predictive modeling to come up with a hypothesis about why that problem happened, to then say to that customer, hey, can you look at your GPS settings on your phone? I want to make sure they're set right so you don't have this problem again. The idea that we are partnering and really looking out for our customers. And you can imagine a day in the future, and we haven't quite figured this one out yet, where the conversation starts flipped, where it's not the driver coming to us and saying, hey, I think I was underpaid, where we are the ones starting the conversation, and by we, I do mean our machines, right? Saying, hey, we think you might have been underpaid. We checked it for you. It's all fixed. Don't worry. Oh, by the way, can you check your GPS settings? I want to make sure this doesn't happen to you again. What a great feeling to a driver that we are partnering and looking out for them, and we're not using any of our human capital because our machines are better at it. When somebody in that experience says, hey, my GPS thing looks fine, then our machine learning algorithm has gone as far as it can get. Now let's put one of our staff on there to work with you and figure out what your weird technical problem is. That's what we're getting super excited about. The last thing I want to mention is the impact of this change on our agents. So we historically were what I would call an adherence climate. We, as you remember, were 74 separate little businesses and cities running themselves. And when we first came together and went through that huge growth period, we were desperately trying to get the tens of thousands of agents that we had around the world speaking in the same voice, solving problems the same way, so that if you have a cancellation and I have a cancellation, we both get the problem solved in the same way. The challenge with that is it doesn't get any of that unique, personalized nature and sort of reflection of the relationship and history that we have. And so as we are building more and more of these machine learning algorithms, we are building more of this technology that you've heard me talk about, it's letting our staff shift. And what we're asking them to do is not execute the rules. We're asking them to fundamentally understand the issue at hand, the history of that relationship we have with that customer, and to use their judgment, almost as a brand ambassador, for lack of a better term, to use the principles of our culture to identify the right solution. And so what that has meant, as you can imagine, is a huge change in expectation. And we have learned the hard way that simply saying to our team, "You're free, you can ignore the rules," did not have the effect I thought it would have. We decided to pilot a high-frequency rider segmented support model. Think of it as sort of our VIPs, the people that are taking 1 or 2 Uber trips a day, every day, all year. That's kind of an amazing group of riders. People do that. Let's give them the best support possible. Let's say to our most tenured agents, you are responsible for those customers. Rip up the rule book, do what you want. Huge opportunity for you to really invest in those customers on our behalf. Go for it. And you know what they did? Nothing. They spent none of the extra money we gave them. They made no more customer gestures because we didn't change the culture. We didn't change their scorecards. We didn't change QA. We didn't invest in the frontline managers and teach them a different way of coaching, a different set of metrics that really matter. So we've had to do a lot of work over the last 6 to 12 months to really change the way that we're defining success for our employees that are doing that type of work. So that was for us one of the big lessons and probably one of the long poles in the tent that we're working on so that our people and what they do and their skill set and the way they contribute is now complementing where our technology is going in a way that makes the two of them really, really quite collaborative. So I'll leave you. I'm getting the sign that we should move on to the next thing. So I will just sort of leave you with these 3 thoughts that for us are very important. We're really doubling down on machine learning because we believe that that is going to enable great customer experience at scale with very little variation, which enables us to do great self-service in a way that makes today's approach look quite pedestrian. And we are changing the way we're fundamentally thinking about our customer care staff so that they can really complement all the other pieces of tech there. So I will stop right there. Thank you.
Thank you, Janelle.
You're welcome.
We can have it.
I don't know who wants that.
Yes. Okay, let me start up with a few questions before moving into the audience. The new initiatives which Uber takes, how competent you are with your challenges across flying cars and buckling up with the drivers, or there are some of this self-driving car practices or the challenges you're facing when you're working out.
I have no idea how to support vertical takeoff. I mean, we don't know, but we are going to figure it out. What we've had to figure out during that huge growth period is how to organize ourselves so that as new things are coming to market, because Uber is always going to have something new come to market, that we have the agility, that we've got the right infrastructure in place to figure out how to incubate this stuff. So we often, like in this presentation, I really only talked to you about the rides business. We have 7 other businesses. We are in trucking. A year ago, I knew nothing about trucking, and now we do trucking. This afternoon, we will be, as I mentioned to you, we're buying an electric bike sharing company this afternoon. So as of this afternoon, we will figure out how to do support for electric bike sharing. We have to organize ourselves and bring in talent that enjoy operating in that type of environment where we're kind of making it up as we're going along until we get to a great scale.
Right. Yeah. That brings to my next question. You worked for Charles before Uber. and Uber is a millennial company. How different it was for you to, cope up with the culture there, and then with Uber,
Yeah, so I worked in financial services before I came to Uber. I spent 12 years at Charles Schwab. The wardrobes are quite different between Schwab and Uber. I will tell you the biggest difference that I experienced, and I don't know if we should generalize these two industries. Let's at least just generalize these two companies. Schwab really understood the power of its brand, and was very, very careful and very thoughtful, and I would argue a bit conservative, in choosing when to place bets because of the potential damage. They could see the downside. Uber only sees the upside. And if something fails, we're totally okay with that. I think maybe Matthew was talking about this idea that it's all about learning. We experiment, we run A/B tests constantly. Most of them fail. That's okay. It just means we're learning. At Schwab, it wasn't so much that mindset, and I really enjoy the agility that comes with that at Uber.
A lot of aggression there. Yeah, because I was talking about the connected rooms, and I had a feature of Uber Eats to be added there. So I had a communication.
We're ready. Lots of people in hotels choose to order Uber Eats because they don't like the room service
we can bill it directly to the hotels,
including that woman right there who raised her hand and said she does it.
Okay, let's have questions from audience now, if anybody.
So hopefully most of our companies have experienced exponential growth in a short period of time. One of the difficulties that we found with the industry and slow moving is making sure that our teams have the resources that they need to be successful when we have compounded growth over a short period of time. What have been the strategies you've used to make sure your team feels like they have the resources that they need to be successful when the number of drivers they're servicing or cars that they have to deal with are growing so rapidly?
Yeah, so the question was about how do we not fall apart when we go through periods of rapid growth. So we do two things. We're really big on what we call playbooking, which is when we figure something out, we document the living heck out of it. Not from a PRD kind of documentation, but literally, here's the playbook. If you have to do this too in your market, here's how you should do it. And we do that, and it's a living document. So when the fourth or fifth city has to do it, or fourth or fifth country has to do it, they might add a new best practice in there. So our playbook is very much like a living document about whatever that might be. The other thing we do is very, very strong investments in feedback loops. So when that frontline team member is seeing that, I'm making this up, we made the button too small and everyone's fat fingering it, we need to make sure that that feedback from that most important employee in the moment is coming back in so that we are constantly improving whatever the thing is that's going through huge growth, so we're not putting out a really defective product. And a great example actually is the Uber Freight business. The contact rate on Uber Freight was more than 100%. So when you booked a truckload through Uber Freight, you were calling us 1.3 times on average for every trip, every freight. Okay, no one's making money when you have to call us 1.3 times, right? And so we had to make sure that feedback loop was constantly there, so we would drive that number down and down and down and improve the experience so that our ability to scale as that growth was happening became more manageable. So those are the two big things we try to do.
Thank you, Janelle. It's Lisa again from TravelZoo. You mentioned you were using machine learning to serve up suggested responses to agents as a way to maybe improve speed and accuracy. Mm-hmm. How is that, if any, impacting the way you think about how you train agents or how much time it takes going forward to onboard and train new team members?
We have not philosophically changed our approach to onboarding and training our agents. Not because we don't believe in Coda, but because we really want our folks on the front line to understand the customer experience as the customer experiences it. It is not possible, for example, for every one of our almost 30,000 support agents to be drivers or to be truckers or to be a restaurant, right? It's not possible. So we continue to invest very heavily in having them understand all of the components of the experiences and the steps. Again, not because we don't believe in CODA, but we want them really immersed. We want them to really be able to see it through the eyes of the customer. And so what CODA is letting them do is just simply get through that faster. More and more, I believe, of our training and frankly, the profile of person that we hire will be much more around that subjective judgment and principles of what we want the company to be delivering from an experience, and much less about are you able to execute every one of these steps with 99% accuracy, because we'll let the machine do that. We haven't yet made the transition in our profile, but we're in the midst of an experiment right now to prove out that hypothesis, and then we'll have to redo all of that training.
Hi, Liliana Petrova, Customer Experience, JetBlue. I actually wanted to build on this question because I'm struggling with it. So we are looking at, one of our big bets is biometrics, facial recognition, changing the airport experience. And I'm seeing that more and more, we have a hospitality training, so we have those standards, but more and more the people that we would need to hire are the people that will be very comfortable with technology. And it's definitely not the profile of who we hire today. So I guess I grapple with how do you, by design, the people that would come for a part-time job, hourly job at that space are just, am I going to have a supply problem, you know? And is it the business case needs to change, my pay scale needs to go up to get these people, and what is just your take on this, and do you even think about it? But like
I think
really
about
like,
it a lot.
Yeah, it's worrisome.
Yeah, so I feel the exact same way you do. This is my point of view, take it, throw out the window, or use it if it'd be helpful, is that we will be using technology more and more to solve the easy stuff, right? I think we all sort of see that happening. And what it means is that from a cost of support or customer experience perspective, it presents the opportunity, and frankly, I'd argue the need, to be reinvesting that in a different type of experience. So what we are working on right now, and it's going on and I'm pretty sure it's going to work, but I won't know for another month, is a very different type of agent with a very different type of expectation, as you could sort of see going more towards that principle and judgment side, that has a different profile, that has a different geography. Oh shoot, I won't have to go to Hyderabad every week. And that has a totally different background and skill set. And for us, what we're trying is going to cost up to 20 to 40% more per head. And the only way that I'm going to be able to justify that to my colleague that runs the whole P&L is to say to her, your total cost to do customer care per trip isn't going down, right? We've reinvested the savings to create a net overall better experience. That's the way that we're approaching that business case.
Okay. Thank you.
We're being kicked off.
Yes.
Thanks you guys so much. I really
Thank you,
enjoyed
Janelle.
talking with
Thank
you all.
So much.